Okay, here is your Getting to Know PSPP video. So this is the software that we're going to be working with this year. And because we don't really have a lab part to our class, we might not have time to go over a lot of this information in class. So I wanted to create this video for you. So if you haven't downloaded PSPP yet, there is a separate video for how to download. Once you've downloaded it, so I have a Mac, so I have a PSPP icon. But then if you have a PC computer, you should have like some sort of little start menu. I think it's usually on the left-hand side. And then you go to all programs and you'll find PSPP that way. So when I click on my PSPP icon, what opens up is an empty data window. So I can type in my data, and so if you're a researcher and you had, done surveys and you had done them paper surveys, you would have to literally type in everybody's responses. So say they put a 5 or a 6 or a 7. So it could be survey responses, or you could have like test scores, like they got a 99, they got an 88, and so forth. So it didn't like my what I typed in. It gave me an error message. But so we don't like to type in data. This is kind of annoying, and actually there's a lot of ways that we can mess up. So for this class, I'm giving you all of your data sets. You can see I have the employee data set saved here. So I will actually post all of the data sets online on Blackboard, and you'll save them, and then once you have them saved, you can open them in PSPP. Now if you have a Mac, it's better to open the program first and then go to File and Open. And then I always save them to my desktop because they're easy to find, because the menu isn't very easy to navigate because it's a free program, So then I find my employee data set saved on my desktop, click open, and it should be opening any second now. There we go. The other window was covering them up. So now I have my employee data set open, and you can see the whole data set. So this is much easier because the data has already been entered for us, so we don't have to worry about entering the data. Now, if you have a PC computer, you can just find your data file and double click on it, and it should open in PSPP automatically. Now, the employee data set is a data set that we use a lot in this class for an example data set. So this is a fake data set that is made up of all of these fake information about fake employees at a fake company, right? So you get the idea, it's all fake. Now, once we have our data window open here, I want to tell you how this is organized, okay? So we automatically have a number, a case number for each row. So each row is a person. So this whole row is all of person 1's information. This is person number 2's information, person number 3's information. So each row is a person or case. You can think about that way, whatever you prefer. And each column is a different variable. So here we have ID number, gender, sex, birth date, education, job category, salary, so forth, right? So each row is a person, each column is a variable. Now we have menus up here. These are our main menus, and you could use File for a new data set, to open a pre-existing data set. Now sometimes people save data in like Excel, and they might import it in. This is also where you can save a data set. You can save it as a PSPP file or an Excel file. Now you won't need to do this for our class, but in case you wanted to use this for something else. And I'll show you when we have the output how to export that as a PDF, because that you will need. Now for this class, we're only going to use this Analyze menu, but the transform and the data menus are very useful as well. So this is something that's nice because it's free. SPSS costs thousands of dollars per license. So this is a little more limited than SPSS, but it's really nice. Okay, so far all we have looked at is the data window. So if you look down here in the lower left, you'll see it's called data view. So we're looking at the raw data, the actual numbers, values for the people in this company. Now I can click on this second tab, the variable view, and now my view of my data has shifted. Now each row is a variable, and the columns are the information about the variable. So let's look at this. So the first variable was ID. It's a numeric variable. It tells me how many characters it takes up, if there's any decimals. I can give it a descriptive label. Now why would I want to name and a label? So PSPP as well as SPSS are very strange in that you can't have any spaces. You're limited to a short name. So there's a character limitation. You can't have any crazy symbols. So if you miss having spaces in your descriptive titles, right? Use underscores, but you got to keep it short. So you're limited in the name that you give the variables, but you can write as much as you want for the labels. So if you're doing survey research, a lot of the times people will like copy paste the actual survey questions into the label to keep it, okay? And then you can assign a value label to the variable itself, and you don't really need to worry about missing values. This is how you treat missing values, and then link alignment. But over here we have measure. This is our level of measurement, our scale of measurement that we've talked about. And in class we talked about having 4 different levels of measurement. So you'll recognize nominal, ordinal, but instead of having interval and ratio separately, it combines the two and calls it scale. So PSPP and SPSS, they don't care, that they don't see the difference between interval and ratio as being important. So we know that the difference is that interval doesn't have a true 0 when ratio does have a true 0. So if we have that level of data, we just call it scale, okay? So let me give you an example of gender, okay? So if we looked back at our data view, you probably noticed that there was a gender variable, but it was M and F, right? It was text. So when we click on type of variable, you see the different options you have for the type of variable PSPP can have. Now, most of our variables are going to be numeric, meaning that they're a number. You could have a date, so we saw birthday was a date, and we could have dollar signs, so like salary is in dollars. But we also have what's called string. Now, string stands for string of text. So the 2 most commonly used type of variables in PSPP and SPSS are going to be numeric and string variables. So I'm just going to leave this as string and click OK. But if I was typing in variable, information, typing in data, and I wanted to set up my variables, I'd need to make sure that anything that was typed in as text is string, and anything typed in as values is a numeric, or if it's like a date or a dollar sign, make sure it's consistent, okay? Now, the other thing I want to call your attention to is value labels. Now, this is a very handy feature. So for string text, this isn't that big of a deal. Like, if every time you saw F, you'd probably guess it was female. Every time you saw M, you'd probably guess it was male. But if you're going to have, numerical data, then you're not going to remember, okay, what was 1? What does 2 mean? What does 5 mean? So you can give them labels. So I click on these 3 little dots here, and you'll see, right, F equals female, M equals male. So I can actually put up here, let's say we had an other, because we should have other. So I'm going to say O is other, and every time you see O, I want you to call it other. And I'm going to click add, and all of a sudden it gets added to my list of values, and all I have to do is click OK, and now I have 3 different values, right? So every time I wouldn't have to type in the whole word other. Every time it saw O, it would say other, and this will be really handy for when we're interpreting our data, okay? So it's exciting that we have all of these different options. Now I'm going to go back to data view really quickly. And so again, I already mentioned for this class, the menus are up here. You could use file menu to open get new data, save data, but you're pretty much going to use this analyze data option. And really in this class, we're going to be learning about descriptive statistics, right? We talked about those. Chapter 1, woo! Frequency distribution tables. Chapter 2, look, there's a whole menu for this. And this is what your first lab assignment is going to be about, learning about these frequencies and descriptives. But we're also going to learn some tests that compare means, and we're going to learn about correlations. So there's a couple different things on this menu that we are going to get very familiar with. So let me just give you an example. I'm going to run a frequency distribution table. So maybe I want to know about employment categories. So what are the different employment categories and how many people do I have in each of those categories? Now the cool thing about PSPP is that everything is very simplified, right? So here's my list of variables, and then I just pull over the variable I'm interested in by clicking this little arrow. And all of the dialog boxes are very similar, so kind of get used to this setup. And over here, I think about this as like a takeout menu, right? I can check the box for the stats that I want. Now, we are going to cover what these mean, the measures of central tendency, which mean is included in Chapter 3, and standard deviation in Chapter 4. So I know this is really early on, and I just want to show you how I can check the boxes of anything that I want. And I can say it automatically is going to give me a frequency table, but if I click on frequency tables, I can say don't give me a frequency table, never. So if I want just these stats, I would click never, and for some reason never is a very strong word. They just mean never right now. The next time I come back to this menu, it will say always again. So you don't need to worry about that. But let's say we want not only a frequency distribution table, we want to see a picture of our data. We want a histogram. Woo! We can actually click the box here for histogram, and I can say, please superimpose my normal curve on top of it. So we'll use this a lot. We like this, histograms, but you could have pie charts. You can have charts, right? So it's kind of nice, all the options. I just have to click continue. And then all I have to do is click OK. Yay! Now on a Mac, my output does not automatically open up, so I have to go find it. So I'm going to say, show me all my windows that I have open, and there's my output window. So my output window is a completely separate window. Now on a PC, your icon will start flashing, and if you click on the flashing icon, it'll show you the new output window, and it'll be really tiny. You'll just have to click the button to make it big. Now, this is called my output window. Now up here, all of this is called syntax. This is showing me the syntax or the code that PSPP ran when I clicked on those options in that dialog box. So people who are really good with this kind of software, they write their own syntax and they don't ever use those point and click menus. They would just type their syntax into a syntax window and it would run the syntax for them. Now, we're not going to go over that in this class, right? But it's good to know how things work. So here, this is my frequency distribution table. It gives me my value label because I added the labels for those. It shows me the original value and it tells me the count. So how many people were a 1 clerical employee, how many were a custodial employee, how many managers did I have, and then it gives me my total. This is my total sample size. There are 474 cases or people, if you may, in this data set. It also gives me my percent and my valid percent, and these are almost always going to be the same unless you have something weird going on with your data and you're missing values, and then it gives you your cumulative percentage. So this is very much the exact same thing we learned about in chapter 2, frequency distribution tables, and then all those stats we click the box for are reported for us here, and here's our histogram that we reported out. So we're going to learn in class how to interpret all these things and what they mean, but for your homework assignments, you're either going to print out these output windows, right? I'm going to have you create output, whether it's different charts, different stats, different pictures, right? Different pictures, graphs. You are going to have to either upload this as a PDF or print it out and turn it in with your lab assignment. So this only works in the output window. So you have to make sure you're looking at your output. You're looking at what you want to save as a PDF. And you are going to go to File and you're going to go to Export. So you can go right to print, but you don't need to. You could go to Export. Dialog box opens up. So I'm going to use my desktop because that's easiest for me to find. I'm going to call this Output. And I'm going to go down here and I'm going to choose PDF. And then when I save this, minimize this guy, look at this. Here's my output that has been saved as a PDF. So I can upload this, I can print this. This is much easier to work with in PSPP because if you saved it as a PSPP file, you could only open it in PSPP on a computer that has PSPP installed. Now, it's not hard to install PSPP and it is free, but you might be in a hurry or you might just want that convenience. You could email this PDF to yourself, you could print it, you could upload it to Blackboard to turn it in. It's totally up to you. So I hope you enjoyed this video about how to use PSPP. You will be using it for your 4 lab assignments this semester, so I want to make sure that you're familiar with it. It's actually really easy to use. It just takes a little bit of getting used to. Even for people who don't love technology and computers, you can do this, I promise. Yay! Okay, well, I will see you in class. Feel free to email me with any questions or concerns. Thank you. Bye!